RPG a day. Question number 12. Wildest character concept. We are going to need a long time to discuss my wildest character concepts. Oh boy. I played a warlock, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition warlock by the name of Cloud Serpent. In Jarl DM's sort of Aztec themed one shot. First time I ever made Locrius, by the way. It was amazing in that. The idea behind the concept behind Cloud Serpent was that he was so dedicated and to sacrificing for the gods, the blood of the gods, the power for which brings the sun back every day. That he had dreamed of sacrificing 1,000 corpses, sacrificing 1,000 people to the gods, and basically couldn't, and just wanted to sacrifice everything that he could, so he sacrificed himself, did a ritual on his own, and slit his own throat. And he was brought back by the North Wind, brought back by Quetzal, which is the winged, feathered serpent. So he took his name Cloud Serpent from that, and lived his new life for that god. And through that resurrection was given the warlock powers. He did this, did that. He had his Eldritch Blasts were, he had a tattoo on his arm of a jaguar in a jungle, and the jaguar was prowling in the jungle, and his Eldritch Blast was reskinned as the jaguar jumping off of his arm and charging the target and mauling it, and then returning back to the jungle that was tattooed on his arm, returning back to the tattoo. So I thought that was a pretty wild concept. What else have I had? Preacher Man, Elonian Anders. Preacher Man was a rogue, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, a rogue that pretended to be a cleric. It's a pretty wild concept. And I remember one game I played on Chalice and Chains. He gemmed it. He made a really good cleric. Like, he gave a paladin, he managed to convince and restore the faith a paladin had lost. But he was never a cleric. He was a rogue. It's really funny. I think that's a pretty wild concept. I had a bunch of wild concepts. Bloodmaw, I think, was what I called him. He was a fighter druid gnoll. Man, he was bad. He was all birthed off of like the that specific laugh, and man, in the intro of him, he was freaking eating. He was gnawing at the, I think, severed hand of a child. And the concept for him is that when he wild shaped, he would become a more monstrous version of what he was, like this really primal gnoll, rather than just a normal gnoll. Even though gnolls aren't all that normal. But yeah, it was a pretty wild concept. And then oh man, there was one I played in Mutants and Masterminds. Right, he's talking like this, yeah. He's a smoker, always smoking cigars and whatnot. But his power stemmed from the smoke. He would shape and form the smoke for his defense and for everything that he did. I think you could consider that a pretty wild concept. I guess. I don't know what the wildest one was. I mean, I've played a couple of in maybe concept. I mean, have I had to play the character for it to be a valid concept? In Saturday Morning Tabletop, I've got an idea I want to do, but I don't get to be a player in my own system very much. I'm always the one running it. But I GM way more than I play anyway. But I've got a concept I want to try out, which is a flesh forged caretaker. So think of a flesh golem as a player character, right? That's what a flesh forged caretaker is. It's your Frankenstein's monster. It's a construct made from flesh and powered by soul gems, which are little gems that have souls trapped inside of them, imprisoned, and they exude magical power. And making them a blood mage, because most of the constructs in SMTT don't have access to mana and cannot have mana wells, which is how magic is primarily performed with most of the more traditional classes, like the priest and the wizard, priest being the SMTT equivalent to a cleric. So making a cleric, but a cleric that can't have a mana well seems bad. But make him a blood mage, so that his magic is powered by blood, which in SMTT is your life force, is your recoveries. You spend recoveries to cast magic, and then giving him a feat released later on in one of my supplements, Characters Eternal. I think it's up on screen right now, where it's called Endless Blood. You get a Legacy of Kain style blood drinking ability, which restores your recoveries, and having that be the concept for the character, which I think that is pretty wild by itself. I mean, I got other SMT ones. You could do some really wild, crazy SMTT characters. If you ever wanted to play like a crazy sort of out there version of Dungeons and Dragons, I've got one that I've illustrated. Coming on right now. Saturday Morning Machinery. What you see right there, those two characters, the mecha in the red with the little gnome girl in the palm. Those are two separate characters, and the mecha is named Daisy, identifies as a girl, and Daisy is a steam-powered caretaker, so a construct powered by water and fire, steam, that has certain feats that allow it to be more of a machine, more of a mecha than a construct. And the little gnome that she's holding is a different character who, is basically the pilot, because Daisy's chest can open up and there's, a control center. So that's a pretty wild pairing of characters, right? Man. Storm Priest Daitora, which is a giant cat creature. I played that. I had that character covered in armor, of course. Another pretty wild one. I've got a child Daitora, which is a little kitty fortune teller, so they could see the future and twist fate. Oh, man. What else? Wildest. I don't know what's my wildest character concept. I've got some even wilder NPCs, but what is my wildest character concept? Man,